of officers. So I'll call the meeting to order. I have 4:03 on February 3rd. And Jennifer, you are taking care of attendance?
Actually,
So,
I am.
oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so you have that. So item number 3 is the election of officers, but before the actual election, Ray is going to go over the election procedures.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I assume everybody got the copy that I sent or email as part of the package on the election procedure, and I assume all of you get a chance to review that. And I just want to highlight a few things, and then if you have questions, feel free to ask. And one is that a commission member is not a candidate for chairperson, will be appointed by the current chair as a chairperson pro tem, who will preside over the election of the new chairperson. And then anybody, you are also free to self-nominate for any of the 3 positions that will be considered today. The chairperson, the vice chairperson, and also member of the executive committee. And then persons nominating another person, also please feel free to explain why you're nominating that person. And then after the nominations and closing of the nomination and the vote, the voting will be, we'll use the voice vote and the roll call vote if necessary. And so just be on the record. And then after that, we'll do the counting, and then we'll announce the result. And say after the initially we'll do the chairperson, the election for the chairperson, and then followed by the vice chairperson, and then the member to the executive committee. And the current chair, you may also appoint somebody who's not running or not interested in office to be the pro tem, the chairperson pro tem too. And typically the election is held at the end of the year. The bylaws, sometimes it's hard to manage the timing because we don't know when the last meeting of the year is sometimes, because we don't know whether we have items or not. And so we will be reviewing the bylaws in terms, not just the election, but the different provisions in the bylaws, which we usually should do every 3 years. And so the staff will be reviewing it and make any recommendations to the executive committee, and then with their recommendation will be forwarded to the full commission for your consideration. So just kind of a heads up. And I don't know if any questions on the election procedure. Okay, so sounds like we are all good. I'll yield back to Madam Chair.
Okay, so I am going to call on Jim Fruin, who has agreed to step up and be chairman pro tem for the election of chairman. So I'm going to turn over the gavel at this time to Jim Fruin, who's in person here at the Planning Commission. Jim?
Okay, thank you, Marion. Have we taken attendance, so we're okay on timing?
Yeah, we
Yes,
just got attendance, and we just for the election of the chairperson. And just for the record, Mr. Fruin is not interested in any of the leadership position, and he's currently the vice chair, but he's not interested, for the future. So I just want to say it for the record.
So at this time, we do want to ask if there are nominations for the chairperson for the upcoming year. Are there any nominations for the chair?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Cramp.
John.
John,
I would like to second that nomination.
And Mark seconded that.
Yeah, and actually, Bobby, we don't need a second for this, but I appreciate Mr. Wiley for seconding. But according to the bylaws, no seconds is needed. But other votes we do on like other business items. But for election we don't. But
So we have one nomination for Mary. Are there other nominations besides Mary for the chair position? And hearing none, it appears that we'll close the nominations, and we have one person nominated, Mary, and we need to take a roll call or a voice.
Yeah, we do the voice.
All right, we'll do the voice vote for those in favor of Mary serving as the chair for the upcoming year. Please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you very much for all of that. Congratulations, Mary. You're
Thank you.
reelected.
Yeah, and it was a unanimous vote for Ms. Cam too, just for the record again, it's a unanimous vote. Okay.
Raise your hand.
I'm sorry.
Those who vote for Mary, raise your hands. Okay. And those on the phone, please state your name and also your position or your vote. Tanya, if you would.
This is Tanya Leffler, and I vote yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. And so at this time, with a chair nominated and accepted, Mary, we'll turn the agenda back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim, and thank you, everyone. So we will proceed to the other two positions on the executive committee. And the first is to elect a vice chairperson. And so are there any nominees from the floor for vice chairman?
Mary, I'd like to nominate Diana Hallman for vice chair.
Okay. Okay, so since we don't need a second, we'll take a, are there any, first of all, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote for vice chair. All in favor, say yes. And the ones on Zoom video, please raise your hand also. And for the ones on the phone only, please state your name and your vote.
Okay. Yes.
All right, yes.
Tanya Leffler, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I believe we could congratulate Diana Hallman for agreeing to serve as vice chairman this coming year. So a month of which is already gone because it started a little bit. Okay, and then the next position is a member of the executive committee. Is there a nomination for the position of member for the executive committee?
Mary, I'd like to nominate Bart Bittner for that position, if he'll accept.
You accept that, Bart? Okay, are there any other nominees?
My apologies to Diana. I didn't mean to not, or
Yeah.
I naturally assumed. But
Thank you, Carl. Okay, it's, so we'll call for a vote here. All in favor of Bart Bittner as a member of the executive committee for 2021? Raise your hand or say
Yes.
aye.
Aye.
Tanya Leffler, aye.
Do you have the vote tallied? Okay. So congratulations are in order to Bart Bittner as the new member of the executive committee for 2021 and Diana Hallman as vice chairperson for 2021. And I want to thank Jim Fruin for serving this year as vice chair and also Diana Hallman for serving as member. So, okay, now that that is done, do we have any public comment that was submitted, Ray?
We don't.
Do not, okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we have 3 items under the consent agenda. So we will vote on all 3 items at one time unless someone wants to pull any of those items for a discussion. Okay, hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, the minutes, number A, B, financial reports, and the McLean County Planning Commission staff report. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Or if you're on the phone, please state your name and say aye.
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 Okay,
Sonia Leffler, aye.
so we have a unanimous vote on that. Now we'll
Madam-
move to
Madam
the,
Chair.
pardon me?
Madam Chair, sorry, I just got a piece of information, just an update on the
Okay.
minute. If you recall, as the commission, there was a smart city initiative update was provided in December about the Bloomington Normal Innovation Alliance, and at that meeting I did mention an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and then since that meeting, it's just an update for you all. Since that meeting, I've learned that from the Alliance, the Innovation Alliance group, that actually since McLean County will be doing the MOU, so the Regional Planning Commission is covered by that, so we don't have to do a separate MOU. Just FYI, and the county is planning to place this MOU as an agenda item at the next week's the executive committee of the county board, and then we'll go to the county board subsequently. So I just want to give the commission members an update regarding the MOU. Thank you.
Okay, are there any comments regarding that or questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ray. Now we can move on to items of information and discussion, number 7. So the first is the regional housing initiatives. And so I want to call on Lauren Gibson for that.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Just briefly, wanted to give you an update on kind of what's been going on the past month here. So from the standpoint of the Housing Coalition, we have our totals that we've distributed in rental mortgage and utility assistance between May and December for 2020, and that was 2.3 million. So obviously, we're happy that we're able to get that out in the community, but with the realization that the need is still there. The state of Illinois will be opening a $450 million rental assistance program in the spring. That's money that's where they're receiving through the most recent coronavirus relief package that was passed at the end of December. Details on that are still kind of up in the air pending some further Treasury guidance. The state eviction moratorium was again extended until February 6th. It's been extended on a month-to-month basis ever since it was put in place in March. So we expect it to kind of keep trending that way for at least a few more months. So the CDC eviction moratorium, which thankfully our state moratorium is a little bit more strict, but that was extended until March 31st. So we have finished our updated rental needs analysis. So that's looking to kind of quantify the number of households in McLean County that need rental assistance and what that number is kind of on a monthly basis. I just wanted to share a couple highlights of that analysis. So we have estimated 12% of renter households in McLean County have lost employment in 2020 due to COVID, resulting in lost monthly wages of about 5.9 million. Between 60 and 70% of renters are eligible for uninsurance benefits and have claimed some $1.8 million in monthly benefits. Approximately $1.6 million is currently needed every month for rental assistance in McLean County before taking into consideration unemployment benefits and COVID relief. That need remains at $560,000 per month, even after you factor in that standard unemployment benefits plus the extra $300 a week, which is currently in place through the end of March. And so with the average monthly rental assistance that the coalition has been providing at about $148,000, $150,000, the potential rental funding gap is about $400,000 a month. So with that, we're looking at approximately 2,300 to 2,400 people that could be vulnerable to experiencing homelessness when that eviction moratorium is finally lifted. If you all are interested, I can send you a copy of that analysis. I actually just a few minutes ago got done presenting that on a national housing call with the National Low Income Housing Coalition. I think a lot of people were excited about it and are going to try to replicate it in their own jurisdictions. I will note that this code and analysis, which the code part was done by our very own Tim Riley. We actually took it from the NYU Center, Perman Center for Housing Studies, and they've been kind of great partners helping us to figure this out along the way. So that's that. Next is our research. We just published today on our website under the Housing Research tab a white paper called Preservation of LIHTC and Other Income Qualified Housing. So that's kind of just a follow-up on the one we did last year, identifying the types of housing. So this is different steps that municipalities or others can take to preserve that housing. The housing choice voucher spatial analysis is almost done. The first draft is nearly complete, and we'll be working with the Bloomington Housing Authority within the next month or so to finalize that. Housing Trust Fund research and recommendations. We've got a first draft done, and again, we'll be working with our regional housing staff committee to finalize that. And that's all I've got. Happy to take any questions.
I have a question, or does anyone else have a question? I have a question. I was wondering if you have any information on foreclosures by owners of apartment buildings in the area.
So foreclosures is it's a bit harder to track that, just because, you know, every mortgage holder is doing something different. I think for the most part, owners that have any buildings that are assisted through federal funds, those foreclosures, you know, are kind of been, you know, pushed off. And I don't think we know anything, you know, locally about, you know, some of those smaller landlords. Like I said, the data is just not really there to be able to analyze that. We haven't heard of any. We do maintain, the coalition maintains constant communication with a lot of the landlords in the community. I know a lot of them have been working specifically with the city and the town to get kind of that rental assistance covered for the tenants.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Lauren?
Yeah, Lauren, this is Bart. Do we know when this finally reaches its course, or when they finally start to pull that moratorium off? Will it be like a step down process, or a kind of phased in, or are they just going to say it's over and people are going to be scrambling to do this? Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, you know, we really don't know. I will say Illinois, out of all the 50 states, has one of the best eviction moratorium in terms of tenant protections. I think some other states that have had other kind of moratoriums expire, they have kind of seen, you know, wave of evictions if it's that abrupt. And again, you know, it's kind of it's really hard to predict kind of what the state administration is going to do. But we have been working with the court system, and we're looking to kind of pilot a project that, you know, when the eviction cases start coming in, that we can kind of pair those people with the needed assistance so that hopefully they'll get to stay in their homes, and then the landlords, you know, will get the cash that they need.
Thank you.
Okay. we can move on then to item number B, which is the Vision Zero Transportation Safety Update. So I'll call on Jennifer Six for a report on this.
Thank you, Mary.
Mhm.
Fortunately, Vision Zero project, which we're also calling a Zero Death project, depending on who we're talking to, is really moving along very quickly. We're looking at a lot of activity this month and into March. Specifically, the project team is drafting the actual plan document, the action plan, and that's going to go to review by the project study committee that contributed a lot of the content, the subject matter experts who were sort of advising from the sidelines a little bit during that whole process, and of course our staff. In addition, the Heil Group are the primary contractors on this, and our staff are preparing for 3 essentially identical public outreach meetings during this 3rd week in March. Some of the details are still to be set, but they'll take place on separate days, obviously, and at different times of day, so that we maximize the opportunity for people to participate. We're calling these community conversations. They'll introduce a much broader range of the public and the interested parties, basically, to the project and its purpose, as well as to solicit feedback from anyone who is participating and anyone who wants to provide feedback and input on the subject and on how it's been handled in the draft action plan. The Heil Group is putting together a list of, people and organizations who will receive direct invitations to participate in any of these 3 meetings, and we're also looking at ways to make that participation available to the public in some fashion, and to publicize these events so that we can get the maximum amount of participation possible. In addition, the Heil Group and its subconsultant called Firebrand Cooperative, which does public relations and graphic design and a few other things, have developed some preliminary graphics and design standards for use in the action plan document itself. And anything that we decide to use this kind of project identity on. So in the future, that could be flyers, it could be posters, it could be stickers to give to little kids who come to an event or are going to a bicycle event, for example. And that will be an ongoing process as we expand this program. They are also going to be using this project identity, this graphic standard and so on a new section of our website that we'll be launching relatively soon about this project and about what it means and what the ongoing implementation of that action plan consists of and what's taking place and how people can participate. So that will be part of the larger sort of rejiggering of our website overall, and this will be a prominent part of when you land on that front page. This is one of the things that you'll see, so people can find it and go take a look and understand it. We are meeting regularly with the team. That includes the graphic designer, and looking to make sure that as we go forward, we're catching any issues we want to cover and discuss with them as soon as possible so that we don't have any delays. That's going well, and we'll be continuing to talk with them and reviewing new information and new elements of this action plan, basically into March. And from that point forward, it'll become a little more public and we'll have more input into it. Any
Okay.
questions?
Just an observation. They are concluding this study within the timetable, I believe, that was set forth originally. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So if I may, just the schedule that they're supposed to finish, per the agreement, supposed to be by the end of April, and then what they plan to do subsequent to the committee conversations, those public engagement meetings, and then they will finalize on the report, and then looking at this point for a presentation with the Planning Commission at your April meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Did
thank
the
you
group
very much.
participate in the online discussion with IDOT when they proposed, I don't know, 5 or 6 options with the Veterans Parkway Route 9 planning that went on? Were they part of
Yeah.
that conversation?
Yeah, that is a separate project that IDOT is working on. And you referring to, I think, is the intersection of Veterans Parkway and Route 9, the Empire.
Yep.
And that they, a few weeks ago, they held a public meeting online.
Right.
And that's a separate project, but it's somehow related, I think, to traffic safety. That is a project that's been in their books for how many years?
We've been nagging them about this for quite some time, because I think those of you who've lived here for a while know. This would be, I think, the third major reconstruction of that intersection over the last 40 years. And it would be nice to see them get it right this time. You may have noticed they had a lot of options, or a lot of potential alternatives, and to an unusual degree, in fact. And I think a couple of people from obviously people from our advisory committee for Vision Zero, but also people who were involved from the local governments were observing this as well. We have not yet been asked for much input from local staff on this project, but we have been invited to make comments, and I know I'm going to do that, and I think several other people will too. And of course, because that particular intersection and all of its various constructs has consistently been one of the most dangerous in moving to normal. So obviously, it's very important to us with respect to the Vision Zero, zero death project, and it's something that we will be reflecting. I'm not quite sure yet to what extent in the discussion in the action plan about priorities and working consistently with IDOT as this project goes forward to make sure that they are considering the implications of some of those design decisions.
But you're correct, Mr. Petrorini, that it's related to traffic safety, and that's a good example of, say, once the action plan is done and adopted, hopefully, by the commission and also the 3 jurisdictions, the county, the city, and town, and then to carry out some of the recommendations. And then maybe a number of locations in intersections, that should be looked at. The action plan that the consultant is working on right now is for the overall, but definitely, that specific intersection is something, should be looked at a long time ago, but it's taken some time for IDOT to finally, but it's getting closer. But thanks for mentioning that meeting.
Okay.
I just want to
Any
make
other-
sure that they're synced up with.
Could you state that again, Michael?
I'm just wanting to make sure that they're synced up so that the plans align, and they're not going in different directions.
Yeah, I think that in terms of timing, because the plan is supposed to be done by the consultants in April, and then there'll be like another additional 2 months for the staff to work on to meet our obligations to IDOT. And then subsequent to that, the 3 jurisdictions will take up the plan and then decide what they want to do with the recommendations contained in the plan. And by looking at how it has taken about 4 years for IDOT to first identify this particular intersection and the going different phasing of planning for improvements, and also right now they're just looking at feasibility study. So we should be okay. I mean, in terms of hopefully some of the recommendations will be applied to that intersection when they try to select which options out of the 8 or 9 that they presented.
Right. In addition,
Okay.
mentioned that the current results that IDOT just presented are from a preliminary feasibility study. There is a huge process that comes behind that, into the future, in order to assess the findings of the feasibility study, to consider ways in which to define the project in a way that they can eliminate some of the alternatives. Sometimes that's cost, sometimes that's engineering issues. I think locally, I've gotten the impression that a number of us have a question or have questions about all of the alternatives. with respect to how they're treating bicycle and pedestrian facilities, because they seem to be a little bit of an afterthought. So there's a lot to be done. I suspect that by the time there's a completion of those engineering studies, the preliminary engineering, we not only will have adopted the Vision Zero process here, it will be amended into our existing metropolitan transportation plan, and will probably be adopted into our next transportation plan that isn't due until the end of next year. So they're going to take a while on this one, especially since some of the costs are so high. So it's a long, long process, and there will be plenty of opportunity for people to weigh in. And I beg all of you, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, anyone who lives in that area, has a business in that area, stay on top of this, because it's important that I hear from everyone as quickly as possible as the process goes on, so that they can't, pretend they didn't hear anything.
So really the outreach to the public, the method that's used is going to be very important, because we want to hear from a wide swath of the public, a very representative selection, not selection, but we want a lot of people to be represented on this. It's a very dangerous intersection, not just for traffic, but for pedestrians. So it's good to hear that Vision Zero is working on that.
And we'll have our Vision Zero, program basically already in place and in implementation to sort of look at some of these priorities and have everyone consider how to approach them before, I think, the state project really gets into full swing, looking at specific alternatives and considering how they might be built and what the various pros and cons are. Those of you who have been around for a while may recall seeing this process go forward with the Psych Highway proposal about 10 years ago. And for a whole bunch of reasons, there are some differences, but the thing that won't be different is the length of time that's involved and looking at all of these alternatives. That would have been a much larger investment by that standard. This is relatively inexpensive to fix this intersection, but the fact remains that it's a major project. It's a major commitment by the state to get this done, and they are going to want to be very careful. And of course, they have to follow the usual federal guidelines in doing the studies that are yet to come. And so IDOT will be involved, Federal Highway will be involved, and I think locally we want to see to it that everyone who has an issue or a comment to make about this as it goes forward knows what's going on, is tipped off to any meetings that are taking place, presentations, so that we can get the maximum involvement possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. Let's move on to item number C, which is Jennifer also, the Pavement Surface Evaluation and Rating Project Update, PASER.
Yes, this is another of our federally funded projects. It's sort of a standalone project. In this case, it's being conducted by the town of Normal, and they have, they're in the process of retaining a consulting company to do the actual survey of the streets. They have a specialized vehicle that just basically trundles all over town and gathers photography, essentially, of the street conditions. And then that gets compiled and analyzed so that they can assign a rating to each segment of the street. The reason that we're doing this, and that it's kind of important overall to the entire community, is that both Bloomington and McLean County use this same system. It's a 10-point scale, but Normal had not been using it. So the idea here is that the ability, so we can analyze the system as a whole in terms of pavement requirements and preservation. Everybody's going to be using the same standard. It will all be consistent, and that will make it easier to see where, as a community, as we go back to IDOT and say we really need help to do X, it will be clear why X is important to the entire, all three communities or all three governments and the whole community. And that we expect to see it get underway probably sometime next month. And they will be getting a report back sometime in March. Apparently the driving it, unless there's weather problems, driving this is not that difficult or time consuming. And then there's the analysis to do. And that's what we will be submitting to IDOT later in the spring.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the 2021 commission meeting schedule. Ray, are you going to handle that?
Sure. Yeah, we included in the agenda packet the schedule for 2021, the different date. Typically, we've been meeting according to the bylaw the first Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. And since we will be reviewing the bylaws, this will be a good opportunity for me to ask commission members if 4 p.m. first Wednesday, is that still good, or is it you want to change it to a different time so that we can take that into consideration with the bylaw amendment? So is it first Wednesday, 4 p.m. still good, and or other time, other date? Okay, so
Unless there's a
Works for
reason
me.
not to change, I think it's important to keep the same day so it doesn't conflict with other meetings.
but yeah,
I
because
would,
the members have changed over the last 3 years, so I just want to double check if that's still good. And since we'll be reviewing the bylaws, so this is the great timing.
Mark, did you have a question? I thought I saw you raise your hand. No? Okay.
no, I've got a question
Well,
here.
I'm just agreeing that we should keep it the way it is, if unless it conflicts with someone else's schedule.
Okay. Carl?
Yeah, I raised the question with regards to other groups that the commission works with in its business. Changing it wouldn't help the work of the staff in terms of other commissions or bodies or the other work that the commission does, correct?
Ray?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the staff is concerned, we are okay with the current, the
Okay.
first Wednesday at 4. And since we have couple of the new members last year, and then your obligations to other involvements in the community may vary too in this past year. So I just want to raise that, not that we are proposing to change, but that we want to make sure that's comfortable by all the commission members.
Okay, yeah, and I just wanted to be sure that a change in the date might help the staff and the work of the commission. If it doesn't, if this really doesn't make any difference, then I would definitely advocate keeping it on our current schedule.
Yeah, that's fine with staff, and yeah. Okay, so that's all. So it's more FYI, the schedule for this year's. And then as we know, if there were any reasons why we have to cancel the meeting, we will notify the members accordingly.
Okay. Is there anything else regarding the bylaws that we need to consider?
Not at this point. Staff will be reviewing the bylaws, and then we'll then schedule a meeting with the executive committee. Now we have the newly elected or re-elected chairperson, and then the vice chair, as well as the member of the executive committee. And then we'll also schedule, and then along with the 2 city managers, and also the county administrator and myself, the last 4 being the non-voting members of the executive committee. Then we'll schedule a time to sit down as the executive committee to go over any recommendations of the staff, and then we'll take it to the full commission. But in the meantime, you would welcome any of the members, if you have any issues, questions on the bylaws. I mean, there are a few areas that we definitely would like to modify, but if any of the commission members, you see there's some issues, there's some wording, or some of the ways that should be operated or meetings handled, feel free to email me. And you don't have to email to the whole group, but just email me, and then we can definitely take those into consideration.
Okay.
But thank you.
One thing that I would like to bring up in light of the delay of our elections to February, we were supposed to have elections in December, but because we didn't have a meeting, because we didn't have any actionable items, we moved it to January, and then we faced the same problem. So I think we ought to consider whether, since sometimes we don't have a meeting in December, whether we should move the election to January instead of December. So that is something that maybe the staff should discuss and bring up, or if anyone wants to discuss it today. If not, Ray, why don't you find out how other commissions handle their elections, whether they do it in January or December, and you could bring that up at a subsequent meeting.
Sure, yeah, I did check with the county, just preliminary investigation that the planning commission actually is appointed the chairperson of the counties. They don't have a planning commission per se, they have a zoning board of appeals. And then the chairman of that group actually is appointed by the chairman of the county board, and it's good for 5 years. So it's a little bit different. So I'll check maybe with the
Okay.
city of Bloomington or the town of Normal, how they typically do theirs. And then from my own experience, you have work or staff, your different planning commission, different boards. A lot of times it's the first meeting of the year, because it may not, could be, if there's no meeting in January, then it defer then to February or whenever the first one. That usually that's my experience, but we definitely can maybe check with the city of Bloomington and town Normal, see what the timing when they do the election. Because in December sometimes it's hard, because like the people's maybe on vacation or Thanksgiving, December and November, end of November, that might be a little bit tricky. But at least for my personal experience, working with different planning commissions and boards, zoning boards and others, that usually election is held the first meeting of the year without specifying the month. So whenever the group meets, the first time for that year, that's when the election will be held. And then the officers will be good, for 1 year or until the next election. So, but we can definitely, look at the wordings. Come up
Okay.
with something. Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank at this time all the work that Tim Riley has done while working for the Planning Commission, and also to welcome his successor. Tim, thank you so much for what you've done on the housing initiative, and I know you've worked on many other issues during your time here. I hope you've learned a lot, and wish you good luck wherever you're going.
Yeah, just a little bit background. Tim, unfortunately, turned in his resignation to us, and so he will be missed. He has done a lot, especially on the GIS front, and then some of the mapping analysis during his tenure. He's been here for what, year and a half, close to 2 years.
Well, if you want to lump the internship in, yeah, over 2 years.
Yeah, he was working as an intern for us, and then subsequently turned into a permanent employee. So, Tim, you have a few words for the commission?
Yeah, I'm just.
Our last chance before you leave.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have worked on some pretty interesting projects during my time here, and just develop some of my technical skills during my work here. So the reason I'm leaving, if anyone's wondering, is my wife originally is from Maryland, so we are moving back over there. We're operating on COVID time right now, but we're planning on making it happen sometime this year. I found a job in Frederick, Maryland, doing GIS, go figure, and we just, want to be closer to her in-laws. Their health is not super great lately, and so it's really sucked kind of being apart from them. But yeah, I'm just really thankful for the opportunities I've gotten working here. Not everyone who studies geography and GIS gets an opportunity to practice in the field, as it were, straight out of college, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, Tim. And you're moving to a really nice city. I've visited there with my son who lives out in the DC area. It's really pretty.
Yes, so we will be we'll be working to put an advertisement for successors to teams. And then in the meantime, fortunately, we have an intern from Illinois Wesleyan University, Will Harris, and so he's doing some housing research work primarily. So we welcome him. He's been with us for a few weeks. Will, I don't know if you want to say a few words or not.
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to kind of gain some experience going into the field and going into hopefully pursuing this in my graduate research. So it's been great kind of gaining that experience, and thank you everybody for letting me sit in.
Yeah, so Will's plan, that's what he was telling us, is that this is his final semester for his undergraduate education, and he's planning for a master's degree somewhere in planning. So we just wish him the best, after this semester, and hope you'll carry on and be a great planner someday.
Well, welcome to the Planning Commission, Will. Hope you enjoy your time here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, it's time to call this meeting to an end. So could I have a motion for adjournment? It is 4:50.
So moved, Carl.
Okay, Carl moves. A second, please. Diana seconds. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. See y'all next month. Take care.